The holidays are full of sweets and hearty dishes. Today I want to share my festive Italian hummus. It's a bean dip full of holiday color, flavor, and texture. This recipe is very easy and perfect for the holidays to serve as an appetizer with fresh veggies, pita chips, or naan. Your guests will think you spent more time prepping this dish than you actually do. Let's check it out. For the ingredients, you'll need a white bean like the Italian cannellini. Garbanzo beans and Great Northern beans are very good too. Salt, Italian seasoning, garlic, olive oil, lemon juice, tahini, sun-dried tomatoes with Italian herbs and olive oil. For the garnishes and toppings, you'll also need fresh Italian herbs like parsley and/or basil, feta cheese, more sun-dried tomatoes and oil, and pistachios. I find a food processor the easiest and fastest way to make this dip. So to a large food processor bowl, you're going to add 1 can of drained beans. Then you're going to add the juice and beans from another can. Bean juice is very good. You don't want to throw that out if you don't have to. It's good as a thickener in soups. It's good to replace a fat in a soup to make it creamy. You can also use this juice like aquafaba in garbanzo beans and whip it up like egg whites if you're vegan. Lots of good uses of bean juice. We're gonna measure out and add the other ingredients. So we've got 6 grams, which is a teaspoon of salt, 2 grams, 2 teaspoons of dried Italian seasoning. I'm using homemade, but you can use whatever you have. 3 cloves of garlic, 58 milliliters or 1/4 cup of extra virgin olive oil, 60 milliliters or 1/4 cup of lemon juice, and 65 grams, 1/4 cup of tahini, which is just sesame paste. This is what makes the hummus, give it the hummus name, even though we're using a different bean than garbanzo beans. The tahini is what makes it hummus. You could leave the tahini out, but your flavors might be just a little different. But you could still have a good dip. It would just be a bean dip at that point if you left out the tahini. And about 28 grams or 1/4 cup of sun-dried tomatoes with Italian herbs. Just try to drain that a little bit. You don't need a bunch of the juice there. I prefer the julienne cut sun-dried tomatoes with Italian herbs and olive oil, but you choose whatever you like or have. We're going to turn on the food processor and allow it to run for about 2 minutes until the mixture is very smooth. You want to stop once or twice and just make sure everything is getting mixed in. The garlic cloves can be a little tricky. You want to make sure that they've been pulverized. If you find that yours is not doing so well at that with garlic cloves, then you might want to chop them a little bit before you put them in your food processor. So just scrape down the edges and then continue running the machine. Okay, after a couple of minutes, your bean dip should be smooth. Now, if your beans are a little bit thick, you can add 1 tablespoon of water or so until you get the thickness that you like. Now, a cannellini bean is going to be a little thinner than, say, a garbanzo bean. So you probably don't need any more liquid here. And as you can see, mine is pretty runny. Now, the good thing about this dip is that it will set up and firm a bit as it sits in the fridge and chills. So it might be a little runny now, but it's okay because it will firm up as it sits. And that's pretty much it. We want to transfer our hummus so that it can set up in the fridge. You could transfer it to a serving platter or to a bowl, and then once it firms up, then you could transfer it from the bowl to a serving platter. I'm going straight to the serving platter. It just makes my life a little easier. And you just pour it where you want to serve it. And once you get all of the hummus on your plate, you'll want to smooth it out like so. At this point, you want to cover the hummus and refrigerate the dip for a couple hours to overnight to allow time for the flavors to meld together. So in the fridge it goes. When you're ready to serve, if you haven't already transferred your dip to a platter, you will want to do so. It should be a low-rimmed bowl or platter so it can be easy to scoop out the dip. Now, since I scooped mine into a serving platter, mine's ready to go. So all I need to do is add the garnishes. All right, so what I have here is I have a combination of parsley and basil. This is fresh herbs that I chopped. I've got some sun-dried tomatoes, some chopped pistachios, feta cheese, and then I'm going to use the oil from the sun-dried tomatoes just as a topping over. Now the hummus has firmed up because it's been in the refrigerator. You do want to let the dip firm up Because not, since the dip is creamy, then the toppings might ooze down into the dip, which wouldn't be bad, but then they just sort of sink. You can put as much or as little of any of these ingredients that you would like. Okay, let's go back and add some pistachios for the green. Holiday season here, our red and green. Pistachios add a crunch. And these are salted and roasted. I just bought them that way. You get a little salty bite too from the pistachios. Okay, now let's add a little bit of feta. Just want to crumble it up. No flavored feta. I think plain old feta is fine. If you don't like feta, you can leave it off. You could use a different cheese, but I love the white of the feta. I think it's really pretty. Of course, that's the Italian flag, so white brings that out, but also it adds color contrast to the red and the green. You only need about 1/4 cup here, not too much. Let's add a little bit more green with our fresh herbs. And then to top it off, I'm just going to add a drizzle of the sun-dried tomato oil. This is olive oil with Italian herbs where the sun-dried tomatoes were sitting in the jar. Just a couple spoons are fine. And there we are. Now that's it. How gorgeous is that? It's ready to serve. All you have to do is add some fresh veggies, some pita chips or naan alongside the dip, and you're ready to eat. Let's get a close-up of this dip. I love the pretty colors on the top. While these colors are the Italian flag, green, white, and red, well, they're festive this time of year too. And the pistachios are definitely in season. So let's take a scoop out and put it on our festive plate here. Get all those pretty colors on top. All right, check out the dip. This is definitely a dip. It's a bit thin because we use the cannellini beans. If you want a thicker dip, go with the garbanzo beans, or don't use the juice from the second bean can. But I like a little bit of a thinner dip. Really holds on to our condiments, like our vegetables, our bread, and our pita chips. Looking at the inside, you can definitely see all of the green from the herbs. You can get pieces of red from the sun-dried tomatoes. And of course, you have the toppings add certainly that texture and color. And I love that the sun-dried tomatoes turned the beans a pink color, which I think is also pretty for a simple bean dip. Well, you know how it goes. It's time to take a bite. This is so creamy. I can taste the herbs and the sun-dried tomatoes. The garlic is just right, but it's not too strong. The tahini gives it that hummus feel, but it's mild when mixed with all of the other flavors. I love all the toppings. It's so pretty, but actually it tastes really good too. You get the crunchy from the pistachios, the chewiness from the sun-dried tomatoes, and saltiness and creaminess from the feta cheese. And you can't go wrong with the freshness of the basil and the parsley. This is a simple dip full of holiday color. It's perfect for the holidays or anytime you want a beautiful, flavorful dip to serve at gatherings or just on the weekend for a special treat. We have been enjoying this dip and hope you do as well. Thanks for watching, liking, and subscribing. Until next time, make and add this festive Italian hummus to your holiday festivities and go bake the world.